Welcome to another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast. Our mission is to bring you discussions on a wide array of topics in the coaching world to grow players on and off the court. You can connect with us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and also reach us directly through email at basketballteacherpodcast@gmail.com. Now, here's your host, Coach Mike Hernandez.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining us here for another episode. As always, wherever in the world you're listening to us from, whatever platform you're listening to us on, thank you guys so very much for all of the support, all of the messages, all of the things that you've sent to me, all the things that you've sent to the show. Love hearing from you guys. Love connecting with you guys, and love hearing about all the things that you guys got going on, right? We're recording this right now in the thick of the summer and in the off season. I love hearing from you guys about all the things that are going on in your coaching world, the things you have planned, the things you're trying to get ready for and plan for next year. So really excited that I'm able to have those conversations with you, and really excited to bring this conversation with you. As I was talking about before I started recording, as many of you know, like I love talking defense, and I love really getting into kind of the strategy and some of the nuances of the game. I know some of you listening are really, really big into scouting and love, getting into, how can I win this chess match? I know what my opponent wants to do, so how do I, take that away and counter that and counter their counter? Love getting into all of that. So that's what we're going to get into today with the topic specifically of taking away your opponent's best option. So we're going to focus on the defensive side of the ball, talk with my guest about what he likes to run defensively, talk about the things that he's up against that he kind of makes a game plan for, how practices can be used to kind of build your defense and work on different concepts to disrupt other teams' offense. So without further ado, let's jump into it here. Very happy to be joined today by my guest, who is now the head men's basketball coach at Westchester Community College. Coach Steve Allen is joining us here today. And again, Coach, thanks for being able to carve out some time here to talk to us. How are things going?
Well, it's been a bit of a busy few weeks since getting the promotion and getting a chance to slide one seat to the right. But it's something I've done before, so it's just been exciting to get started and get going and get moving towards this fall.
So let's start with that then, Coach. You said you've been there before, so let's start with your basketball journey and your coaching journey. Where has this game taken you? What were the steps along the way, so to speak, that led you to the head coaching position at Westchester?
Sure, it's been a meandering journey, if not unspectacular. I grew up in Binghamton, New York, and I played through high school, and then I got cut in college. I burned out myself on the game and enjoyed the college life a lot more than I probably should have. But I got myself cut, and it helped me. Honestly, it helped shape me as a coach. I learned the mistakes that I made, and it helps me kind of push the young kids and the guys that I coach into not making the same mistakes that I made. But one thing that I did do, my coaching career honestly started before I even finished playing. When I was a seventh grader, I was playing in a travel league with my father coaching, and we had a fourth and fifth grade team. And I was always drawing up plays for him to run, and come on, Dad, this is going to work. And most of them didn't, but some of them did, and you kind of learn that way. One of my most fun experiences was as a senior in high school. I coached the fourth and fifth grade travel team, in my same district. So I would leave after varsity practice to go coach these fourth and fifth grade kids practice, and the amount that I learned in that experience alone was a lot of fun. But after not making basketball, I kind of knew, I'm 5'10" and white and can't jump and don't run fast. Mm-hmm. So I knew my career was over ahead of time. And I got into coaching. I started coaching some AAU basketball. I moved to Buffalo to go to college at SUNY Fredonia, and I started coaching AAU basketball. And that helped push me. I did a good job working a couple basketball camps in the Buffalo area, which got me to work as a JV coach at a Division III school in Buffalo called Medaille College, which is actually closed now. Working for Mike McDonald, who is one of the best mentors I could ever ask for. He was great. I used that job. I coached there for 3 years, paid for half of my master's, which was incredible, and did well enough coaching against a team called the University of Pittsburgh at Titusville when they beat us by 45 in October. And then we were one half court buzzer shot clock beating 3-pointer from the volleyball line to go up by 6 that kind of put us away in a game down in their place in February. And the AD was impressed enough to give me the opportunity there. Pitt Titusville, I coached there for 4 years as a Division III junior college. I was okay. Thought I knew everything, and really I didn't. And that was, like, it was a humbling experience because you always, everybody thinks they know everything until they realize they don't know everything. And you get out coached in games, you make mistakes along the way, you upset kids, and you just, sometimes you learn from your failures the most. And I did that. The school was struggling and ended up closing a couple of years after I left. So I was looking to leave, and I got hired in St. Louis at an NAIA coaching women's basketball. At the school used to be called the St. Louis College of Pharmacy. Now it's the University of Health Sciences at Pharmacy. And that was an experience that I really will always remember. And I owe a big part of my coaching journey to the guy that I worked with there. He was a men's basketball coach, Danny Brown, who's still there. And honestly, he knows more about the game than anybody I've ever met. And talking to him was just when I realized how little I actually knew about it. And we spent 2-3 summers together just talking basketball, learning the game, watching highlights, watching clips, going on Synergy, and watching just anything you could think of. And like my knowledge of the game grew so much. My knowledge, like what I needed to know at that point was relationships. I wasn't great with that, and it got me let go. And that kicked me into my next position, where I got on with the next person that I owe my coaching life to, Sam Pearson, who just got hired at Tennessee State as an assistant coach. I'm very excited for him there. But he coached in the same conference at Missouri Baptist, and I worked as an assistant with him. And it was the first time in my coaching life that it was really about just helping everyone, because I knew I was just joining. I was just there to help. And it flipped my whole coaching life, right? Like, I learned how, when you're a coach, for really, like, the most success I've ever seen as a coach has come after that, where I learned I'm here to help everyone involved. I was just here to help my guy Sam be a little bit better than they were, help the girls get a little bit better, just help everyone. And it just taught me everything on the relationship side, because I didn't know what it meant, and I really learned it then. The next position, I was lucky enough to coach the St. Louis Surge, which is a pro women's team at the same time, and that was a really cool experience.
Sounds great.
We had some former WNBA players. They were fringe players, but they've been in the association, they've been in the league. We had one girl on the team that is currently playing in Australia. She's been the MVP 2 out of the last 3 years. Like, it was awesome seeing the level of player that I just hadn't seen before. And that was a humbling experience, playing scrimmages with them and not being able to keep up and can't stay in front of people, and really, really struggling there. But then a friend of mine who I had met back living in New York, Ben Newberg, who's a coach at SUNY Sullivan on the women's side, helped me get a position on the men's side. And I worked as the varsity assistant and JV head coach, and working there was great. We went to the Final Four. My first year, my second year, we were number 1 in the country before just hit some struggle, and the other teams that we played really took off, and we ended up losing in the district championship. But at that point, I met my wife. I took a year away from coaching to get a teaching position, which made me more money than I ever made, because we know how coaching is. It's not the best paying job unless you're on television.
No.
And so during that year off, like, I really connected with my wife and got to, just what I found out was how much I miss sports if I'm not in it. And I switched teaching positions into a school in Westchester County, and it helped me get on with the last person that I owe everything in my coaching journey, Andre Pennicook, who was our head coach, and he gave me an opportunity to be the associate head coach with him this year. And I was really happy to help, take the program and elevate it a little bit. They had gone 13-16 for 2 years, and we went 18-11 this year. So it was great helping him out. And I was lucky enough to get to slide over one seat, and here I am.
With your journey, I'm always curious to ask this because I always have guests who are always curious about, hey, what's the best way for me to, break into coaching college? I have interest in it, but what's the way that would help me, get involved and get my foot in the door? So, kind of hearing your journey, what advice would you give to somebody who's kind of looking to break into those college ranks? What would be some advice you would give on what they could do to, get that foot into the door, so to speak?
Sure. I mean, the first thing is grind. The second thing is get yourself in a position where you're in front of people and develop relationships. It's a lot of networking. My guy Sam gave me the best advice that I've ever heard when it comes to getting hired in the coaching game. It's not about who you know, it's about who knows you. And get yourself in front of people. Like I was lucky. I one of the kids that I coached, his father was on staff at the University of Buffalo, and he told me to work camps. And I worked camps at 4 different schools in Buffalo and 1 in Syracuse, or 2 in Syracuse. That was what helped me. I worked really, really hard at the camp. The guy was impressed with, Mike McDonald was really impressed with the work that I did. I was working. I just did as much as I could. There's no job that was too small. How can I help? What can I do? Like, what can I, just continue to
Yeah.
push and press. And he was like, listen, I need a JV coach. It's a no pressure job. Would you be interested? I think you work hard enough. You can make it work. And, getting the master's paid for was icing on the cake for me, but it was a way that he could get me on and still stay inside the budget that they had.
I
So,
like that. It's about who knows you, right? It's people who can speak on your behalf, or people who,
yes.
are know who you are, know what it is that you're about, and no, that's really good. And that advice of just like connections, because I think even I think that works in all, forms of adult life, right? And people that you can network with and leverage those connections and people who can speak on you and everything. And, it's also
Ah,
to your point of what you said, that willingness to kind of do everything or work wherever's needed, or put yourself in a position to be useful, because I think that if you have that sort of attitude and you're willing to kind of be in a spot where, hey, I'll do whatever it takes, and I'll be in whatever position you need me in, and I'll do X, Y, and Z. I think the more exposure you get to those like types of positions, and the more of that different type of work that you get, by the time you do potentially get that like head coaching position, you've had all of this experience doing all of these other things and all of these other roles, that you really get, I feel like, a really good sense of like what the position entails, because you've seen it from so many different perspectives.
and that diversity of experience also gives you value when you approach somebody as to what can you bring to their program, or what can you bring to a school or a coach or a team, or what can you bring? If it's just, I'm really good at doing the laundry, be really good at doing the laundry. Like,
Hey, that's something.
I don't care. Stay until 8 o'clock. Like, I don't have a wife. I don't have any kids. Like, I can stay till 10 o'clock and get the laundry done and hang up all the jerseys till tomorrow. Like, that willingness to do those things, but also it doesn't have to be that. I'm really good at offense. I'm really good at defense. Like, I'm really good at developing players and what they do. Like, if you provide that value too, that helps. And if people can see it, that's even better.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Coach, before we jump in fully into our topic, I did want to talk about the concept that you brought up early before we started recording when we were interacting, is about your team chasing a shared purpose. And so I was really curious about what that meant, and what does that kind of look like, and what can a coach do to kind of build that culture in their program where, every guy or girl on their program is working as a unit for, whatever that common purpose or shared goal is.
Now, and I think, when I thought about this question, like the first thing that came to mind is like building any purpose starts with consistency. Like, every culture that's created is born out of what you do every single day. It's what you emphasize is what you get. It's what you focus on is what you're gonna get. So one of the things that I've landed on as a coach, and it really formed when I was coaching the JV team at SUNY Sullivan, because we played 18 games. We had no playoffs. We had nothing but each other and the opportunity in front of us to play. And, the hope that because I've done the exit recruiting where I'm sending players to other places and I've done it before, and was the hope that maybe we could get somebody to go play somewhere else after they play JV for us. And we had nothing to play for other than that. And it kind of helped me develop that purpose of like, if I treat it like a joke, it's going to be a joke. If I focus and make it serious, it's going to be serious. It's whatever I make it. And if I'm the same person every day and we talk about the same things every day, then we'll get what we're looking for. You always find what you're looking for. If you find reasons to make it a joke, it'll be a joke. If you find reasons to make it valuable, it'll make it valuable. So I think that your culture as a whole is what you do every day. And, we as basketball coaches or coach of any sport, like, you're always here for the same reason. People might have some ulterior motives, like they want to score 30, they want to do this, they want to do that, but you're all here to win games and try to get a championship. Like nobody comes to basketball practice like, I think I'm gonna be garbage today. No one's showing up to the game like, I want to go 1 for 15 and I want to lose by 30. Like,
Yeah.
We know that. And a lot of times we forget that when we do the little things, and players forget it when they're tired. Players forget it when they got other things going on in their lives, and coaches forget it when you're on an 8-game losing streak. Like we're all here for the same reason all the time. And that's the consistency that you want to bring. Like, we're here to win. This is what we're doing. This is what our culture is. So the thing that I've done a lot within that, in fostering that culture, is first and foremost, I try to use the words we and us in everything that we do. Every time a coach speaks, it's, we have to do this. We are going to do this. This is the drill we're going to do. That we're doing it this way. This is how we do it. We fell short today. If we lose a game 90-80 and one kid scored 30, the record doesn't say we're 0-3, but here's an asterisk, that kid's 1-2 because he scored 30 tonight. And, you play good, you play bad. If you win the game, we've gotten what we want out of the situation. And that's like, you just continue to build that in everything that you do. When you talk, like I said, our verbiage is always around we and us. And we try to put it to where I'm not pitting the coaches against the players. It's always us against the problem. We got a team coming up we got a team that's coming up that's 15-3. It's us against the problem. It's not me trying to solve it so that the players can win it. It's we're all in this. Like, everyone's doing their part, and you can get out of it what you want. So the culture of a shared purpose is that consistency, talking about what it is that you're looking for is what you're always doing. And I think the last part is, like, I try to coach without an ego. I think within a shared purpose, it would be hard for me to have a my way or the highway mindset, because I don't want to ask them to do things I wouldn't be willing to do myself. I don't want to push them in a direction I don't want us to go. I want all of us to be pulling in the same direction. And I don't think it's as effective when you're pointing a finger saying, pull that direction. Like, it's grab the rope too. Let's go. We're all going this way. We're all trying to do it together.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea that you said, though, the us versus the problem. I think that's it's easy to, I think sometimes as a coach kind of fall into that trap, as you kind of mentioned about, of like, thinking about what your team needs to do, and it gets kind of adversarial, and you're talking about like, I need you guys to do this, and it's kind of like, I'm here as a coach on this side, and you guys are on the other side. But no, like you said, right, you're working together with a shared purpose. So any issues or conflicts or things that you got coming up, opponents or whatever the case, it's everybody versus that problem. And I can definitely tell from the way that you talked about it, that your players like understand and respect that, because they're not feeling singled out, or they're not feeling like there's some adversarial relationship they have with you, that everybody, including the coaching staff, is working together for this common goal.
I mean, it hasn't always been the case. Like, when I wasn't a great coach in my first teams in Pitt Titusville, it was definitely that way, and I learned probably later than I should have, but it's, that same thing where if we lose 90 to 80, it's not, we're 0-3, but I'm 1-2 because I had a really good game plan and the others didn't do it.
Uh-huh.
Like we're still all 0-3 together and we got to push on to the next thing. Like we want to win the next one, win the next one after that. And I think it's consistency. You be the same person every day. You get the same type of positive results if that's the direction that you're going.
Coach, as we shift into the crux of our topic here, let's talk as we get into taking away your opponent's best option. Let's talk about you as a coach, your defensive philosophy. So, talk us through what it is that you like to run defensively, and how is your defense used to take away whatever your opponent's best option is, or whatever it is that your opponents like to do.
Defensively is I prefer to be a man-to-man defensive team. I think it's hard to be a good zone team if you can't guard the ball, if you can't do man-to-man things. I think being a good man-to-man defense makes you good at everything else. I do like the press. I prefer to get up and down, try to we got 94 feet on the court, let's use it. But truthfully, I prefer to shape my teams around what my players do well. As a college coach, we can recruit our players in, which is nice. But even with that, I'd rather collect talent and then find what we do well and do that well. If I can find a 6'10", 7-foot kid, then we're probably going to pressure the ball a lot more. And if we get beat, that's okay because we got 6'10" rim protection behind. If we're all 6'3" and under, then maybe we still got to pressure the ball because we gotta use that speed and quickness to make things difficult on the other teams. Or maybe we are in help 90% of the time to never get split, try to keep the ball on the perimeter because we don't have that rim protection behind us. But I will say is like my goal defensively, more than anything else, is to stay out of rotations. I think when you get into rotations, that's when mistakes get made. That's when teams get beat, and that's when good offenses make life difficult on you.
So knowing that, what now as we kind of look into like the next steps of this? So if you talk about primarily being a man-to-man, so I'm curious about the level of defensive knowledge that your guys have by the time they get to you, because obviously they're coming in and they're coming into the collegiate level. So obviously there's a certain expectation of where perhaps obviously their basketball skill is and their defensive ability and their team IQ and individual IQ. So as you're bringing these guys in, how much have you found that you are needing to kind of install and teach and reteach versus maybe just refine because they already have like the baseline understanding of what to do on a man defense?
What's funny is that I learned this semi quickly. If I coach these college players when I bring them in with the expectation that they know anything, I'm potentially going to be disappointed. Having an expectation of players, no matter which level you coach, can set you up to be disappointed or to make mistakes in what y'all do. I think no matter what level you're at, you start with the basics, right? You want to be good at the little things, but you want to get the basics of a higher level of basketball. So I think in the college game, the two things that I want my players to be able to do best, and this is at least on the ball, is first and foremost, be able to close out. Because there's a situation, like you're not guarding the ball 85% of the time unless you're covering the point guard. And even with a lot of teams, the point guard gives the ball up and go. Unless you're in one of those ISO heavy teams, you're not guarding the ball all that much. So when your guy does get the ball, 90% of the time you're getting it into a closeout. So if you can close out well and make the person that makes the catch make a second decision. If they're a driver, if you can make them hesitate on what they're doing, and maybe they got to jab and go opposite or jab and go same, like you make them hesitate on what they want to do, you set yourself up defensively to be in a better position. If they're a shooter and you can run them off the line, you've put them into a second decision, and now their efficiency is a little bit less. Now, the best players obviously can do multiple things. So what I want my players to do well, first and foremost, is close out well and win two slots. We could do that. The rest of it, we can start to build around what we do. And you close out well, you win 2 slides, you can force your guy to kick it, or you give your help time to get in position. I'm a big believer in the weak side triangle. I listened to Mike Brown speak about that, and I've bought into it ever since. Have a nail defender, have a low defender, and have a help the helper defender. And that's one thing that I teach every time we do shell, and we do shell 30 minutes a day every day. So it's you start with the basics. You build what you want. If you don't have great ball defenders, then you got to be really good in help. And I mean, you always have to be really good in help, but it becomes more important when you're not quick enough to guard the ball in front of you. You got good ball defenders. Now, maybe you're more of a stunt and recover team. Maybe you're not early into help because you trust your guys to get into those spots and change directions quickly. But if you operate with expectation, you leave yourself to having gaps in your defense and having gaps in the knowledge that the kids have. You just have to teach. I think at the higher level that you coach, you just have to teach it at a higher level and teach to some higher level things that are going to happen on the court.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of like the idea of like if we don't make any assumptions, then maybe there'll be some surprises along the way, and then okay, maybe we can, adjust things here and there, but like you make sure that no stone is left unturned because you're, not making any of those assumptions, and you're kind of building it up from the ground up, and that way you kind of already have it factored in that, hey, we're going to spend X amount of time on all of this defensive stuff because we're going to go in with the belief that there's, they need to be taught or how to do it correctly. So you're not having to like readjust or scramble and think, oh, like we already assumed that you were here, but you're not. So now we got to go back and like change everything in our schedule and everything, and get thrown into
Right.
chaos that way.
Think in your career how many times you said something like, "Man, they should already know this," and they
Right?
don't, and they don't, and it's like, man, that's my fault. I should have taught that, and we should have been taught that.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. Let me ask before I don't want to leave this thought here. You said about closeouts, so I got to ask you about what's your process for teaching closeouts?
I mean, it's gonna sound boring, but you do it a lot. Like, you just do it a lot. Um, we one of the things that I've been a big fan of, and I've done this my whole coaching career, is working on one-on-one situations. Is I don't in practice, I never have like a handoff check to start any one-on-one situation. We're starting with a closeout. I'm gonna throw the ball from the center of the key, and I'm gonna close out to you wherever you are. And I'm working on shielding. If we play a team that is really good drivers, then we're gonna work on closing out short and being able to sit down and slide. If we're playing a team that shoots really well, then we're closing out high, we're closing out tight. We want to, whatever it is that we're doing, we're trying to make guys get to their second decision. If it's certain players that are really good shooters and certain players that are really good drivers, then we're talking differently. Maybe it's a short closeout, maybe it's a mid closeout, maybe it's a high closeout. But you just do it a lot. In one-on-one situations, you start them with a closeout. In 2-on-2, coach starts with the ball, you throw it to the wing, and they got to get from their help spot to the ball. So they're in something of a closeout situation before they start to drill. 4-on-4 shell, they're all standing in the paint. I throw the ball out, they got to close out. Guy's open, he hits it. It's as often as possible, you put them in those situations. I'm not a huge drill guy in terms of I want to do drills, but I want to put them in the situations, even if it's a small-sided game, even if it's a breakdown drill. Like a breakdown drill, I'm good with because you're putting them in a game situation. But I want to continue to put them in game situations and incorporate a closeout as often as possible.
So you brought this up about, obviously different teams are going to be working on different things and going to be using different things against you. So when you think about the offensive concepts that a lot of teams are running against you, are you seeing, a lot of little dribble drive? Are you seeing, these different, spread out offenses? What offensive actions do you see that you're going up against a lot that you then in turn need to make sure that you're, working on, practicing and defending against?
So we see a lot, especially on the East Coast, a lot of teams are running horns actions, and a lot of teams are running side ball screen. So we're seeing ball screens more often than we're not. Especially at the JUCO level, you usually have 2 to 3 players that are the best players on the team, and most things run through them. And they most of the time also tend to be the best ball handlers. So they're bringing the ball up the floor, they're getting the ball screens, and then they're making their plays off of that. So we're seeing a lot of that. The teams that have 2 bigs will run some side ball screen, will replace action, or kind of sit their other big in the dunker spot, or they run horns action. So we're dealing with a lot of ball screens. We're dealing with a lot of fighting through that. And, this past year we did a really good job with a low lateral hedge to kind of protect the paint and force teams into kicking into their next option. So we see a lot of ball screens.
To build off of that, then how can a coach and obviously you're doing this, so I can obviously just ask you directly also, how do you kind of authentically replicate defense in a practice situation? Okay, so like you said, you're seeing a lot of horns action, you're seeing a lot of screen work in general. So knowing that, how do you then in a practice plan make sure that you're intentionally working on that defensively in an authentic manner?
You like we do our shell drill, so we'll start with our basic shell 4-on-4. We got wings and corners, and we're gonna play one dribble, pass and cut, move through, and all that stuff. But then the second half of our shell, we start to get into the actions that we see the most. So because we see ball screens the most, that's the next part of our shell. We're gonna start with a ball screen, and we're gonna build into it. Like this past year, we were a low lateral team. I'm looking at the guys that I have coming in. So far, we have some big guys that don't have the quickest feet, but they have good smarts. It's probably going to keep us a low lateral team. And that means we're going to continue to work on it. So we try to get over the top of the screen. We want to get our guard back underneath. And we low lateral, which will give us our big time to get back to the roller once our guard gets under. We can use the nail defender to kind of control that ball handler, slow him down just a little bit, and give our guards a chance to get back in front of the ball. And use our helps also to tag in and sink in and all those things. So, once you get your basics in your defense in a shell drill, if say you got 20 minutes for it, you can do 10 minutes of basic set shell, and then 10 minutes focus on the actions that you see the most with the teams that you play. So if you're seeing a lot of ball screens, start with a ball screen, throw the ball in, start with a ball screen. If you're big, teams are bringing ball screens from the top of the key, have a big start at the top, 2 wings, throw to 1, follow ball screen. If they're coming off the block, have a coach start on a wing or on top of the key and throw it to the wing and let the big come up and set it. If teams set a lot of pin downs, if teams set a lot of back screens or Princeton actions or whatever it is that you see the most, practice it in those shell situations.
And so when you're let's just stick with the horns action, the screens action that you talked about. So as you're simulating this and you're running through this, for you as a coach in these situations, what is kind of the balance for you of we're going to put our guys in these situations and we're going to see if they're able to make the correct decision and able to adjust and kind of figure that out versus a coach, making sure that they're pointing things out and they're teaching and they're, explicitly making sure that they're going over that with them. How do you kind of balance I guess the idea of we're gonna let our guys figure it out versus like, hey, I gotta explicitly, tell you to do this or talk about this to make sure that like you have this down.
Sure. I think you could teach it early. If like I said, we're kind of a low lateral team, you can teach them what you want. So this is our footwork. You can walk them through it, and you kind of hold their hand through it, and then I think you let them sink or float for a small amount of time. I think as a coach, that also allows you to evaluate what you're seeing, because kids are going to basketball players are going to screw things up in a million different ways, and if you anticipate what those mistakes are, you just might not cover. You might miss something that's going to come up in a game situation. So let them do it and see what mistakes they're making, and that's when you can make your adjustments, right? Like they're coming up too high, and then the ball's getting through to the roller, and they got a clean layup. All right, let's sit back a little bit deeper. Let's take away that passing angle. if they're too deep and they're getting jumpers in front of their face, okay, we gotta challenge our hands high. We gotta be, see what the mistakes are. And that kind of naturally gives you the opportunity to teach what how to cover up the mistakes that are coming.
Yeah, that's like I like that of like the idea of like if I you front load it, right? If I give you the skills that you need, the language that it is you need, and you already kind of are armored with that like knowledge ahead of time, and you know the way that we're
Mhm.
trying to defend a certain action or the way that your footwork is supposed to be, then if you kind of see those mistakes, which obviously are going to happen, then you just kind of refer back to, hey, this is stuff that we already went over. This is the terminology that you know. So like
Mhm.
what did we not do? What did we do in that situation? But they're already kind of equipped with that knowledge ahead of time that they can hopefully have a productive conversation if you ask a question about what they did or didn't do in a specific practice situation.
I said that's one thing I learned over the last few years because when I was coaching the JV team, like I knew my guys didn't know a lot, so I asked more questions that year than
Mm,
I'd ever asked. And it's like, what did you see? What did you try to do there so that like when you can ask questions from a position of trying to gain understanding of what happened, you can teach them more effectively, right? Like a lot of times you see coaches ask a question, they already know the answer, and then they're going to teach them in what they want to teach them, and maybe the
right.
kid hasn't connected that piece of information in the way that you would have or you did, and then they continue to make the same mistakes. So if you ask them a question from a point of trying to gain their understanding, then you can give them a better response and a more clear teaching point.
Well, and I've said this before too, that when you ask questions, you ask really good questions to your players and they, give you that feedback, back to you, you can find, I know as a coach, like, oh man, like clearly I didn't explain this correctly. If this is what you're getting out of this, like what did I not do? Maybe there's something I didn't communicate clearly or something that, if I got 7 or 8 girls who have no idea like why this happened or why they made this mistake, then I can look back and say, okay, this is definitely something that on my end I need to go back and refine and fix. But, I would never know that if I don't ask those questions. It's easy to jump on somebody and, get on them for something they did or didn't do, but it might be like, hey, I didn't do a good enough job teaching this or explaining this, and maybe nobody on my team really understands what it is I'm doing. So it's a good kind of reflection tool to say, all right, let's take a step back and let's go over this concept again.
Absolutely. You'd be surprised at things that you learn when you ask the questions when you're trying to understand what come up. Because sometimes it's like I didn't know it was possible not to know that either. Like, but okay, so you really don't know this part of it. Let's get you to knowing this point. And um, one other thing I learned, and I got really like I got a great response from it, is if you don't know the answer of a question at the time, like it's okay to be like, yeah, let me get back to you on that. That's a good
Hmm.
question. I don't know. Let me get back to the whiteboard later tonight and figure this out, and I'll come back to you tomorrow with a better answer. Trying to fake it and act like you know gets you in more trouble because they can see through that. Kids can definitely see through
They
when
know.
you're struggling through something and you don't know yet. Be like, that's a good question. Let me get back to you and
Yeah.
and figure it out.
Yeah, no, they definitely appreciate that because they could tell, right? They could definitely tell. It's like, hey, you just said something to say something, but I don't think you actually know this, or
Yeah.
I don't. You're just trying to get the conversation over with, or make it sound like you're
Yeah.
no, for sure. I wanted to ask because I know this is something that I've had a couple people ask about before, or talk to me about, and I thought this would be a nice way to kind of fit this question in here. When you go up against teams, coach, that maybe have like a dominant ball handler or a player who really is going to get a lot of touches. They're kind of the focal point of the offense. What kind of goes into making a good game plan and talking to your guys about shutting down or really zeroing in on maybe one person in particular who carries, the majority of the offensive load for a team?
I'm glad you asked this because it actually brings me to the story of what turned me into doing this as a coach.
Okay,
Um,
great.
so when I was coaching at pharmacy, we played this team, Lindenwood Belleville, and the school's closed now, but they were routinely a top 25 team, and they had the leading scorer in the country, scoring 26 points a game, and I had a really good point guard too that year, and but she really turned out to be a great point guard. As an aside, she ended up the second leading scorer in NAIA history. on the women's side of 3,900 points. Like, she was incredible. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna let her deal with that girl, and we're just gonna see how it goes. Like, we're gonna make sure nobody else beats us, and I'm gonna trust that my girl's better than her, and we're gonna go. And that girl was a senior, and my girl was a freshman, so we were so close, but we lost that game by 11. She scored 30-something points, and late in the game, she scored like 8 of their last 10 points and assisted on the other 2. And I'm like, okay, that was a mistake. And like, it was that day when I realized, like, it flipped my mentality as a coach, and it went from great players are going to get theirs. Let's make sure nobody else beats us. Because what I learned is when you do that, great players still beat you. And the other players build off the confidence of that kid going for 40, and you just get steamrolled. Or you play them tight, and that best player on the floor does what he does. So we play them the second time, and we are coming off of a 45-point beating where their coach just took away my best player. Made every single bit about, do not let her have anything. And she had a rough day. They were number 10 in the country. We got steamrolled. And I went, like, the whole bus ride home, I'm sitting on my whiteboard just trying to, like, scheme up a defensive setup to stop her. And I don't recommend this for most teams, but we decided to triangle in 2 that day on their best player and the best player. So we triangled in 2 there. They had really good shooters and 1 big, so I put the two wings on each side, my post in the paint. One girl chased this girl 94 feet, made everywhere she went.
Pounded her.
We were on her like glue, and I had a good freshman guard that did a heck of a job that day. And I put my point guard in the center of the paint, and I'm like, when she drives, you meet her, and that's it. If she gets rid of it, you get to the second shooter, because she's going to kick it to the wing. We got our 1 wing's going to get there. She's going to kick it to the corner. Just get there by the second pass, and we'll be good. First quarter, we're playing them. Doesn't work. We overcommitted to the guard. We were guarding her when she didn't have the ball. We're down 25-11. I'm going, okay. It's a bad day. And my point guard, 2 seconds into the second quarter, picks up her second foul. Yeah, this is a bad day. The girl who comes in for her executes it all perfect. They scored 3 points in the whole quarter. We come into halftime from down 25-11 to up 30-29. And we end up running out winners on a triangle in 2 on a girl. Like, do not let her chase her everywhere, over the top of every screen. If she gets downhill, that's cool, because we have a second defender there for her. Everybody else just get to the shooters and get to the big on the block. It works. She scores 17 points, but she has 7 turnovers. We win a game. It's the first time we'd ever beat that school in history. And I'm like, okay, lesson learned. Do not let the best player beat you. And that's it. Like, it formed my coaching philosophy on that side of it after that. So to answer the question, when you have somebody that has the ball in their hand a lot, the goal is to find what they do well and make them go to the next thing. So if you have a point guard, say, the ball handler is really good coming off his right and getting downhill. If they set a screen on that left side of the floor where he's coming to the center of the floor, Clark show it, send him back to his left, and fight with it. So give you is actually that really great point guard that I got at Pharmacy her sophomore year. I was coaching against her at Missouri Baptist. And I coached her, so I knew what she did really, really well. And when she went to her left, she was dynamic. One of the best players I've ever seen, one of the best players I've ever coached. And when she goes left, she's not stoppable, because she's either going to get to the rim and get to the layups, bring her help across. I was lucky enough to teach, like, I had a great opportunity. We worked on, when help steps up, how to avoid them so you're not taking charges, and she still learns how to finish. She could get to the free throw line. She's incredible. Great step back, going left, step back, crossover. Like, going left, it's impossible to stop. Going right, she was really good. And we decided to live with really good over dynamic. And we were able to sweep them that year. They were her 2 lowest scoring games of the year. And even the year after, when I left, my guy Sam ran the same defensive style on it, and it worked. But by the last, it still worked. He split with her, though, because she was good. And last year, nobody in the country had anything for her, so it just went the way it went.
Uh,
Um,
I like that though
but
about, figure out what they do. Like you work hard on making them go into something else, whatever that secondary is. Because like I think, and I'll let you continue, but I do definitely agree that there's got to be for those players, there's got to be something that they want to go into, whether it's always go left or they're always looking to do something. They're always trying to go for this first primary option there, and to make sure that they're going to have to work incredibly
uh,
hard to go into something else and show something else. Like that could be those
mhm,
7 turnovers that you talked about.
uh, and it is really that, like, you, whether you're looking at one individual player that's a dominant ball handler and dominant scorer, like you want to get them to their second thing, and it's also building in the team defense. So if they get to that thing, what do we do? And if, like I said, if it's somebody that's really good getting downhill going right, and they set that left-sided screen to get to the center of the floor, we're going to hard hedge it. If he gets by that, then my nail defender becomes really, really important. So now he's got to kick it to the next player, and then we live with what happens. Um, you know, most really great players have a good counter, but the counter is usually good enough to keep you in a game. It might not beat you, but even so, you teach a team, okay, we've hard showed him he's not getting to the right. He's really good going left, but this is what he's going to do. This is what he's looking for. You got to go. So I guess the important thing that I'll say is know what it is that they do well and know how you can take it away. My other piece of advice on that is make sure whatever it is that you're doing to help take away a player or a team's best thing does not run counter to your rules. If you try to, if you're a team that sits really deep in help and packs it in and does a good job closing out, don't go into a full denial type game because that's what you think is going to shut them down. It might, but your team's not prepared for it. So make sure whatever it is that you're giving your team is something that stays within the framework of what you do on defense.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because I am a pack line person. So I run deep pack line and
Uh,
if I think I flirted with the idea of once of trying to change something up on hard denial and we're gonna get up in there and it was terrible. It is terrible, and I
it's
think they
all
understood what it meant, but they had no
yeah.
idea. Like they instinctually, like muscle memory was like I shouldn't be way up here. Like my mind, my
Mhm.
coach told me to, but like this isn't where I should be, sort of. And ugh. Yeah, no. You like stick to that what your bread and butter is, stick to what it is you do and not try to be coach of the year, try to be this genius out there
Yeah,
doing all these things if your players aren't ready for it because they're going to get
and
frustrated. I know my girls were when I tried to
we
do that.
yeah, we had one of those games ourselves this year. It was a team that we should have beat by 45, and it was a 6 point game at halftime, and we're like, what is happening?
But I
And
I like the go ahead. I was gonna
no,
go
no,
ahead.
no, I had nothing else.
No, I was just gonna say the idea of like you may still get beaten by a secondary action or tertiary action, but it's kind of like that concept of like when you do your scouting, you do your preparation, whether it's on a team or an individual, it's like if we are gonna lose, it's not going to be because of, X, Y, and Z. You're going to have to do something else differently. They're gonna have to show you something else. We're not just gonna give you your whatever that primary course of action is. Like you're going to have to earn it a different way, and if you do, then we'll kind of go and adjust and go from there.
I'll tell you that day you were better, and we'll come back with a better plan. And then as a coach, like I've even learned, like when you go to your kids at the end of the game, you're like, okay, that was what happened. We tried this, it didn't work. Next time we're gonna have a better plan. We thought,
Mhm.
we did what we wanted, and that's a credit to you guys. We didn't win the game. That one's on me. I didn't have that plan B prepared enough, or we weren't ready for whatever it was that beat us. We'll be ready next time.
You're running, like you said, you like to run a lot of man, so obviously a lot of individual work is involved in man-to-man defense. So I was gonna ask you, so I'm curious about what individual skill work can players be doing to improve their defensive understanding, their defensive ability. We talk all the time about obviously stuff they could work on the offensive end on their own, and they could work with somebody and work on their offense. But defensively, what can and what should players be doing to really build up their defensive skill set?
Think it's a lot of it is situational when you're a player. So if you're playing in any time, right? If you're in the driveway and you're playing with a little brother, little sister, older brother, older sister, that's a good time to kind of work on your thing. Like don't like be take the most advantage of situations that you have. So you can work on D slides, you can work on being in position, you can work on sitting in your defensive stance. Like the the part that's hard for players, I think, when it comes to working on defense is it's boring. But greatness is boring. So if you're you find yourself struggling defensively guarding the ball in a game situation, you want to work and you want to become a better defender, you have to sit down and work on it. So one thing that we do teach is I think the retreat slide is something that is under taught. Everybody teaches these slides, but I don't think we teach retreat slides enough where it's not, I'm taking, if I want to move to my left, I'm not going to push off that hip and move directly to the side. It's, I'm going to take my right hip and I'm going to push myself back a little bit with my hips kind of open. So I'm continuing to stay at the angle that I was at. And if a kid continues to drive at me, I can retreat side, I can push back, and I can keep the angle sharp in a position that I want to be in. Because how many times we teach that defensive slide where kids are moving sideways, and then the kid, a person goes to drive by them, they open their hips up and they slide sideways, but they're not as fast as the person running. So it's working on that slide angle where you're pushing yourself back but keeping your hips not square, keeping your hips at that angle that keeps them out of the lane.
Angle, yeah.
And like that's a big part of it when you're working on individual stuff is how can you improve your angles. But another way to get better is watch the game. The NBA is a little bit of a tougher watch to really learn, but the WNBA for girls players especially, college basketball is good. If you go onto YouTube, there's a million video. Like the neatest thing about being in the information age, in my opinion, is that there's a video for everything. And
Yeah, everything's out there.
Yeah, and it's not just one. Like there's like I'm big on get a second source of information and this is all across life. One person can tell you a thing, that'll make it right. But if you got 2, 3, 4 people saying the same thing, you might be onto something. So like you can watch things and get on YouTube. Like kids love YouTube. Kids love like players love watching things on YouTube. Just be a little bit more intentional with what you watch instead of the 4-minute highlight tape on Caitlin Clark's threes from 35 feet. Watch a coach's clinic of Gino Auriemma sitting down and talking about their shell defense. Find the things that help close up your gaps and close up your weaknesses on the internet and practice them, whether it's mental reps, whether it's physical reps, whether it's sometimes defense is being in a weight room and being in condition. Everybody's a good defender in the first quarter. Not everybody's a good defender in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. Just physical, just stamina, right? Just the ability to play just the four quarters. And no, I love that stuff about all the information that's there. And I think as coaches, kind of to add on to that point, because I really agree, is like, you owe it to your players, you owe it to your team for you yourself to have, resources available for them to like look at or have, things that you've curated on YouTube or whatever, because
Yeah.
it can be overwhelming for players and they might not know where to
Sure.
look, or they might not know what good information is for bad information. All this stuff's out there. And I think I've done that for a few of my players where they've asked about certain things that they want to look at. And so I, take the time to go and see, all right, what can I find here on the internet that I think might be useful for them, or videos that they can have. And like, hey, here's a playlist of a bunch of stuff that might be good. Find what you like and find what really like resonates for you or you think you need to work on. And, just that little bit of effort of kind of giving them that guidance. I think players are like, okay, this is something I can work off of rather than trying to search all this on my own and having no idea where to start.
Absolutely. And for us coaches, it's important to stay current with the information, because if you were to, if you want to build your defense around what teams are doing in 2015, 2016, you're going to be sitting back and drop coverage. And then that's when, the Trae Youngs, the Steph Currys, the Dame Lillards learned about the pull-up jump shot in front of everybody.
Mhm.
If you're not staying current, you're gonna fall behind the trends. And it's important to always. I think it's important to continue to learn, be a lifelong learner in the game, because the game is not a stagnant thing. It's always changing. There's always something new coming, and if you're not paying attention to it, you get left behind, and there's newer things that are going to beat you.
Yeah, and no, I agree, and I think that's also the stuff, whatever that new stuff is, the stuff that's coming out there. That's the stuff that your players are probably looking at, or players are probably learning from. And I think one of the more interesting things that a coach could do is think about, some of the concepts they like to run, or the things that they like to do offensively or defensively, and then
Mhm.
search those things up on YouTube and see what like the top videos are on those, and look at those and see if that's stuff that you agree with or not, because that's probably what our players would do, is they would look up, how do I get better at, XYZ, pull up jump shot, whatever the case may be, and they'll look at whatever
Yep.
those first few videos are, what those are, and they'll be like, all right, this is what I got to do. And I think it's be an interesting thing to look at those and see, okay, yeah, this is how I would teach it, or I think it's working, or oh no, I don't want my player to look at this at all. Like I better go find something better, or curate something better for them to look at.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I do think I would say the last thing for a player to do to get better is ask questions. Like just ask
Hmm.
questions. Like don't have too much pride. Don't have too much ego. Like if you're not good at something, if you don't know something, please ask questions. If a coach doesn't like when you ask questions in a drill, wait till after practice. Wait till a drink break. Wait till you get a down moment when you can ask them. Even if it's a text later in the next day. Hey, how can I get better at this? What am I doing wrong on this? Like, ask questions. You learn by asking questions.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, have that culture, empower that culture where your players feel comfortable asking questions, and oh, that definitely huge, huge, huge. I wanted to ask Coach before we hit our concluding segment about how does this kind of apply to you on the offensive end? So you're defensive minded, thinking about what teams are gonna what you're trying to take away from other teams. So obviously other coaches are going to go through the same process with you, and trying to think about what they can take away, what you want to do offensively. So on the offensive side, how do you kind of design and plan out an offense where you have, counters and alternatives, and you think about what those secondary or tertiary actions are going to be if the opponent tries to take away your primary?
Yes, it's funny to hear me being considered a defensive minded coach, because it's usually not my move. Like even last year, Andre, like our head coach on the men's side, he was good. He's very good on defense. So I was focused on our offense, and prior to that, I've always worked with offense, but working at SUNY Sullivan, we were a really, really good defensive team, and it really helped buy me back into the defense.
Mm.
Like when I first started coaching, I was a defensive coach, and then I learned that scoring a lot of points was a lot of fun, and it was good for JUCO recruiting to get guys out. And then I strayed away from defense, and now I'm back.
Got you back
And
in it. Yeah.
yes, so where I really and where I learned this the most when I was working at FRMC with Danny Brown, because Danny and I would sit down in our office all spring, because we were full time coaches, and this was my first time being a full time coach. And I sat there and I was like, what do we do? And we came in one day and we had just watched, like, Luka scored like 45 in a playoff game, and we're like, what did they do to get him open so much? And we just watched, and we watched every bucket, and I was like, hold on, they did something here that they did earlier in the game. Let's go back. Let's watch every possession. And we watched like how they were evolving their offense throughout the game, and I'm like, this is mind blowing and is brilliant. So we started crafting offenses and offensive concepts and thoughts around, like, okay, these are the good defensive teams. This is what they do. So for us to beat a good defensive team, like, what are we going to do? And this is, I think, where I learned as an offensive coach that helped me improve, is that everybody had, like, everybody's undefeated on the whiteboard, right? You drop a play, like, this is beautiful, I'm going to get an easy bucket every time. But defenses are good. And you start to, when you create an offense, when you create a play, a set, whether it's an out of bounds play, once you draw it up, you go, okay, how would I stop that? And you get into your defensive principles, and you're like, man, this is what I would do to make sure that doesn't work. So now it allows you to craft the second level to what you're doing. So if you're coming off a ball screen and it's, this is a great play. I got a hammer on the weak side. I'm gonna hit him in the corner and it's great. Okay, but they're gonna take that away. So what am I gonna do next? Maybe instead of a hammer screen, it becomes a flare slip because now the defenders are gonna switch it. And now if they switch it, I can backdoor cut it. And we've gotten it there. So when we're into our offensive install, let's say we're gonna run this play, but also now here's your plan B. And then if you can be creative as an offensive coach on that, and then like, hey, we've now run the flare slip twice. What's the team going to do to stop that? Oh, great. Maybe now we curl off that hammer and it's a layup instead. Maybe we turn it into a ghost screen where that person that came up to set the flare is actually going to come and set a ball screen, and maybe they run through it. And you start to look at, like, to build an offensive system or a philosophy or a setup for your team is how have your actions. Like, everybody loves their plays, everybody loves their actions, but now start to develop it, try to evolve based on what you would do to stop yourself. And if you know the teams that you coach, if you're really good at scouting or seeing teams scout you, what do they do well on defense? And if you can anticipate the things that they're going to do to stop you, then you can start to craft your sets and your actions to run counter to what they do well. So say you're playing a team that's you like ball screens and you got actions that have ball screens in your offense, and a team is really good at hard showing. What's our next thing? Do we go to a lift out the corner, quick throw and throw in? So now they can't hard hedge as much. And if you make the defense have to go and change their stuff because they always hard show, they're really good at hard show, and you beat the hard show 2-3 times because they slip it, they ghost it, and you're hitting jump shots, you're getting layup back doors. Now they got to go to their plan B, and your plan A is always going to be better than their plan B. So it came from kind of marrying those two things. Like, I watched NBA teams and WNBA teams evolve their offense throughout a game, and so you see what adjustments they make, and you're like, why did they make that adjustment? And it's, oh, the defense did this, and this, and then you think, well, that's what I do. So now when I'm crafting my offense, it's how do I do that in a reverse, and like reverse engineer it into how do I beat what teams do defensively to make my offense better.
It's such a fun, I think, chess match. Just hearing what you said, it's just such a fun chess match to go over and think about. I think just in general, kind of taking this and kind of a general concept of what you talked about, I think it is really tempting to kind of look at, like, whether it's an offense or a defense that you put in, and just kind of think about what it would look like in best case scenario, and like, okay, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna have all of this great actions out of it, and this is gonna be something that
Mm-hmm.
always is gonna disrupt a team. But to go for that reverse engineering process like you just kind of went through, and think like, okay, but what if this happens? Like, what would a team do against this? Okay, then what do I do against this? Then what would they do
Yeah.
against this? I think it's kind of
Yeah.
like any good, like, theory that you have. You should have people who are willing to, put holes in it, or you should be able to kind of think about, like, well, where are the weaknesses to this, plan that I
Facts.
have in place, and that process of doing that, I think it's super helpful to not think that anything that you're doing out there is infallible and there's no answer for it. I think that it's easy to kind of think that we can design something where it's foolproof and it's going to always work and there's nothing you can do against it. But if you kind of take a step back and really kind of dissect the approach to, breaking down that defense or disrupting that offense, you're going to find that, those holes exist. And for everything that you do, you're giving up something else. And I think it's just a very just helpful process as a coach to be able to, just kind of step back and analyze and critique and kind of poke holes at their stuff that they do that way.
I've learned once you have the infallible play that can't be stopped and all that, that's when you lose by 20 in the playoffs because somebody figured it out.
It's because you never
Like
had
you,
another answer to go to, nothing else to
all
go to.
right, you'd be 19-5 in the regular season, but it's that playoff game when that lack of adjustment or lack of anticipation gets you burnt because playoff teams are good and they're going to do things that other teams that you've beaten don't do.
Coach, we could probably spend another 4 hours here talking. I know we just kind of scratched the surface here, so I'm gonna have you back on to talk defense and talk hoops again. But I do want to wrap up, Coach, by giving you a couple questions here, and these are questions I give every guest. So I'll go ahead and jump right in here with this first one, which is, thinking back on your coaching career, you got a lot of experience, a lot of stops along the way, a lot of situations and things you've been through, but Thinking back on your coaching career, what is a specific moment from your coaching career that you think by sharing our listeners would be able to learn from?
Thought about this when you sent the list, and I was reading it, and I kept coming back to the word accountability because there was a moment, and honestly, I wish I remember who I could attribute the quote to, but I heard it, and they said accountability isn't something you do to somebody; it's something you do for them, and it changed my whole mindset towards holding players accountable and being accountable myself, and and I've become a better coach because of it. So early in my coaching career, when players made mistakes and maybe ran afoul of the rules that we had set up or did these things, it was always like, man, like I don't want to run you. Like I don't want to have to run you. I want to just teach. I just want to run practice. I want to do what we're doing. Like I don't want to suspend you. I want to like you're good. I want to win a game.
Mm.
And it always made the discipline side of holding people accountable for their actions a struggle. And it'll also it forced me to create rules that I didn't like. You could see that I didn't always believe in them, and it always left me sometimes kind of all right. If this was my best player and we got an important game coming up, maybe we don't follow through on that thing quite as strong and do something different. Or when it like a kid is frustrated with an accountability thing, like it helps frame the way you speak on it. So like we have a moment like we had to turn in miles this year. Like every week our kids had to run 5 miles by the end of the week. Just get it on the treadmill, get out in public, send us your watch or send us the treadmill 5 miles at the end of the week. And we were coming up on a big game and the kids didn't, we didn't have kids turning them in. So we ran them all 5 miles the day before the game. And, the one of the players was arguing with me. He's like, how dumb is this if we're running 5 miles a day before a game? And I'm like, no, no, no. How dumb is it that you didn't turn in your miles so that you're gonna have to run 5 miles a day before a game? Like this is not our fault. You
Yeah.
know the expectation. You fell short of the expectation, and this is the consequence. And it's a bummer that it's a day before a game, but this was your fault. And by learning that, like I wasn't doing this to them, I was doing this for them because when we played them later in the playoffs, we were getting our miles turned in. Like it wasn't a problem with that, and you get better for it. Like and it's a kind of a parenting rule too, right? Like, oh well, how come I have to not have my Xbox for 3 hours straight just because I didn't clean my room? Like, no, no, no. How come you're so unwilling to clean your room that you don't want your Xbox? Like the
Mm.
accountability is for you. I'm not doing this to you. This is for you, and it really shaped the way I've been an accountability coach, and it's really helped. Now, what it also taught me is that collaboration is so huge. I used to have rules that were very don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. Now my rules have all the positive language, and it's flip flop how I can interpret the rules. Like when you have negative rules, like don't be late to practice, don't do this, don't do that. The kids can be like, well, I wasn't late. Well, I wasn't this. I was here. I was here, but I was in the bathroom. I was this, but I wasn't that. And if you're like be on time in the gym, it's like, yeah, you might have been here, but were you in the gym? Were you ready? No. Okay. You can't argue the positive rule because you said it the way it is. And if you fall short, it allows you to interpret the rule. And if they fell short of it, or if it's negative, they can interpret it to argue a way out of it. And if they're good at it, they can. You're like, well, guess I can't hold you. Like, I guess I can't. Like, you didn't do what this exact rule was to the letter, and now we've
Uh-huh.
created an adversarial conflict situation where it's like, do the right thing on the court. We create our expectations of what that looks like. Now we've all agreed upon this is what it looks like. Did you do these things? No, you did not. Okay, here's your consequence. Did you do these things? Yes. Okay, great. This is why you're playing a lot. And it's flipped what I've done as a coach, and like the accountability and discipline got so much easier when I realized it's what you do for them, and I got a lot more willing to lose a battle to win a war down the road.
The
Or
accountability stuff. That's just the power of words, right? The power of language, and it makes me reflective and think about, you know, the things that you say and the way that you frame conversations and the way that you use words and use vocabulary. are
Hmm.
so powerful and so important, and the difference between, you know, the way that you frame, like you said, the accountability conversation of like, you know, this isn't like this is something you chose to do, and you know, therefore this is, you know, what you chose then as a consequence by doing this or not doing this sort of thing. The way that that's framed is a hugely important. And you know, for me as a coach, as I kind of hear, you know, what it is that you just said, it always makes me remember and reflect on the fact that, you know, anything that I say, our players are going to probably remember it long after I've forgotten that I said it. And there's stuff that I know that I've said that I thought, you know, was something I said, and that was that. And, you know, a player will come up to me about a year ago and be like, hey, remember when you said, you know, X, Y, and Z a year ago? I'm like, no, I have no idea, but they do. And so
Yeah.
it's just the power of words, right? It's truly
I,
incredible. And everything, your players are
it's,
paying attention to everything, aren't they? They notice everything
oh
and they hear
man,
everything, right?
I have a player and she was in my wedding that I coached what in 2017 or 18, and she still remembers one of the things that I said, and she still like picks at me for it. And I'm like, you know what? But it is. I didn't remember. I still remember it now because we laugh about it still to this day. But no, it's it. You'll forget it. They remember it, and it stays there.
Coach, to wrap up, I give every guest what I like to call a 60-second soapbox, but you can go over 60 seconds. It's just a fun title I like to put the things, but I love to use it as a way to allow you to get kind of a final idea, a closing thought, a closing message that you leave the listeners with. You could take it any direction that you want, basketball wise or coaching wise, because it's your soapbox after all. So, Coach, I'm just going to go ahead and just kind of give you the floor here, and just go ahead and take it from here.
Awesome. So I thought about this one a lot, and what I came up with it's two parts. The first one, this is for coaches, it's for players, it's for anybody in any kind of a field. Is be honest with yourself with what it is that you do. So if you're a player and you're a good layuper, be a layuper. You don't have to be a great shooter. Like, be honest with yourself because, like, when you're a player and you're like, "Well, coach, I'm open. I can hit this shot," and it's like, you know, you have hit the shot. You don't hit the shot consistently, but you're really, really good at driving downhill and making layups. Like, you can get paid as a college player by making your layups. What you do it well, and embrace that role. Excel in the role of what it is that you do well. If you're a really good stopper, don't try to score 50 every game. Just stop their best player. Embrace that. Be honest with yourself. As a coach, if you're a really good offensive coach, be a really good offensive coach and hire a defensive coach as an assistant. You know, if in season, focus on what you do well and do it really, really well. And if you have something well, maybe you can close your gaps by using what you do well to leverage getting yourself better at something else. So I got better as a defensive coach when I started to leverage what I was learning about offense and how to stop myself, and I got better at that end. Like, it's be honest with yourself and don't run from your gaps. And that's kind of my second thing. Do not run from adversity. I think adversity in the world is something that kids are struggling with and young adults are struggling with, and even us as adults are struggling with because we're shielding everybody from it. You
Mm.
know, if my team's not winning enough games, it's because everybody else isn't good enough. I'm gonna go to this other team and we're gonna win a lot, and that's gonna be awesome. You know, if I didn't play enough, it's because coach doesn't know what he's doing. I'm gonna go over here. If I fail a test, it's the teacher didn't teach it well enough. It's not, I never studied. It's not, I didn't even turn in 3 homework assignments during that time. I just, we're starting to create a culture. We've already created a culture where adversity, we're shielding ourselves and our kids from it by, if something's difficult, I'm not going to do it because it's hard and it's not fun. If I'm struggling with something, it's because the people around me aren't giving me a good enough environment to succeed. And I think don't run from adversity. If you are struggling as a coach, if you went 6-17 this year, embrace it. You have an entire off season to learn from whatever went wrong to improve it. If the culture was something you weren't happy with, study up, learn some stuff about culture and
Mm.
improve. Don't run from that adversity. Like, don't do that thing where you're like, no, I was right. I'm good at this. And they were wrong because you're going to be 6-17 again next year. You know, if I'm a good shooter, but coach doesn't put me in a game to shoot, you're going to be on the bench again next year. Like, don't run from the adversity. Don't hide from it. it's important. You have to face it. It's what's going to make you a better coach. I think that I'm a good coach right now because I stunk at Pitt Titusville. I'm a better relationship coach now because I stunk at it when I was at pharmacy. You know, I learned from the mistakes that I made. I was lucky enough to be in some very good environments at Missouri Baptist and SUNY Sullivan and now Westchester, where I was able to like showcase the learning that I've had, and it's helped improve the places that I've been, but it's improved me as much as it's improved everyone. Like, take responsibility for the mistakes that you make, take responsibility for yourself. If you like, when you absolve yourself of responsibility, right? If your team is struggling as a coach and you're like, no, I have good game plans, they're not doing it, you can't improve because you've absolved yourself of responsibility. You've shouldered it all on them, and it's up to them to change it. And they're not going to without the help that they need, that you can give them as a coach who knows what they're, you know, what you're trying to get through. So as a kid, as a player, embrace it. If there's adversity, if something didn't go well, learn from it, get better. If you're a coach, same thing. Like, don't shield yourself from it. Don't shield your people from it. Embrace adversity and come out on the other side better, because that's really when you can make growth as a person. And it transcends sport. It's everything in life. If you are in a relationship that doesn't go well, what went wrong? Maybe it is your fault. Maybe it's not your fault. But even if it's not your fault, what could you have done differently to make it better? Maybe it was leave sooner. Maybe it was fight harder. Maybe it was talk differently in the bad situation. Like, there's just different. Adversity is a great teacher, and don't run from it.
Yeah, I like that idea of, like, you know, identify what those things are that maybe you're not as strong at, and tackle those head on, right? And you tackle those head on and work on those, and then maybe, you know, next year, in a couple of years, it's something else that's your weakness. And now you have a new thing to challenge. But, you know, I kind of always frame it, and I can definitely tell you're the same way, of like, if we truly want to do what's best for our players and put, you know, the best team out there that we possibly can, and put our players in a position to be successful, we as coaches have to be doing everything that we can to continue to improve, to continue to get better. Otherwise, you know, we're doing such a disservice if we continue to run away from maybe the things we're not as good at, or just focus on certain things and have these other huge gaps in understanding. Like, we owe it to our players to make sure that we're always getting better and evolving ourselves.
Yes, everything is our responsibility. Like, we have to do everything together. Yep, I'm with that.
Awesome. Coach Allen, again, I know we just kind of scratched the surface here, but I loved all the stuff that we did get a chance to talk about, and you got to share about defensive philosophy, a little bit offensive and cultural philosophy as well. Like, it's really, really cool to hear your passion and your excitement for this, and I'm excited to follow along with what you got going on at Westchester, and in the new group that you're bringing in, and hitting the ground running, and getting everything on the offensive and defensive side going. So, Coach Allen, again, really appreciate you coming on here, sharing some gems and knowledge with us, and sharing some thoughts and ideas. I appreciate it. Best of luck, and go get after it next season. All right.
Appreciate you having me in. I'm gonna watch you guys as well, and I hope I get a chance to talk about it again.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for listening. This was another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast. Make sure to connect with us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, or reach us directly through email at basketballteacherpodcast@gmail.com. Take care, be safe, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast. Make sure to connect with us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, or reach us directly through email at basketballteacherpodcast@gmail.com. Take care, be safe, and we'll see you next time.